I'm from a residential area. That's what I told the counselor at the halfway house when I was 19 years old. She said, Sharon, you're going to be back if you leave against medical advice. I'm from a residential area. I grew up in Long Island, New York. My parents came here from Dublin, Ireland. My mom, 12 brothers. My mom had 12 brothers. Dad has 8 in his family. We're Irish. I grew up in a beautiful home. I went to a private Catholic school. I was athletic. I was pretty good at school, let's not exaggerate. I remember the day that my mother said, if you didn't listen to your friends telling you that you had shoulders that were too big, you would have been an Olympic swimmer. There was no way I was going to be an Olympic swimmer, everybody. But I came from this beautiful Irish Catholic family, you know? We were good people. My parents brought us to the Commuters Club in East Rockaway, New York. That's where we saw Santa Claus, at the Commuters Club. So while my family was doing some sing-songs inside of the Commuters Club, I was in the parking lot sipping Budweiser nips with my friends. Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling. Yeah. I was sipping nips while that was happening, everybody. So what started out as a very innocent little drinky drink in the parking lot progressed. Those innocent nips in the parking lot became drugs too. It wasn't always that innocent. So, you know, one day I realized that maybe I do have a problem. Maybe that woman at that halfway house, maybe she was onto something. You know, I was this athletic, chubby, funny, I could sing kind of girl. But I just didn't feel good inside about myself. I always thought I was chubby. I had acne. I was a teenager, you see. So just because I had gone to 2 rehabs and a halfway house, that doesn't mean that I'm an alcoholic, everybody. I'm Irish. We drink. That's what we do. And then one day, I woke up in Detroit, Michigan. To this day, I have no idea why I couldn't have woken up in the Bahamas or Bermuda, but there I was, freezing in Detroit, Michigan. I woke up next to a guy named Spokane. That was his nickname, or his alias, not sure. I left him for another man, Bear, full name Sugar Bear. I was in love. He had just gotten out of Jackson State Penitentiary after doing 11 years for kingpin drug dealing. Now, mind you, I didn't know what that meant, but I was oddly attracted. So there I was in Detroit, Michigan, and nobody knew where I was from. Nobody knew that I was from this Irish Catholic family in Long Island, New York. And something about that felt great. Nobody knew I had been to 2 rehabs and a halfway house. Nobody knew that I had been arrested and was mandated to go to a halfway house when I was 19 years old. So I stayed in Detroit, Michigan, homeless, addicted, beaten, until that one day where Bear had rearranged my face so bad, and I walked into that bar where, of course, I was the bartender, and the sign read, Brent's, where the friendly people meet. They were friendly, all right, but they all had aliases, too. And he had beaten me so bad that I didn't recognize my own face in the mirror. And it was at that moment that I knew it was time for me to go back to that place where I came from, that loving Irish sing-song family in Long Island, New York. So when you sit on a Greyhound bus from Detroit, Michigan to Long Island, New York, it gives you a little time to think about things. And here I was, 21 years old, finally legal to drink, and y'all want me to get sober. Great. But you see, alcohol and drugs were my medicine. Every time I stopped drinking, I wanted to die. I tried to leave this earth more times than I care to admit. I wanted to leave this earth because I didn't have my medicine anymore. I felt terrible about who I was inside. My dad was working for New York Hospital, and he had this wonderful employee assistance program fellow, his counselor, that helped him while I was in Detroit, Michigan. And my dad said, I think you should go see Ben, Sharon. You'd like Ben. Dad and I are a lot alike. So I traveled from Long Island all the way into the city, as we call it here. And I saw Ben every Tuesday. But Ben asked me the most important question I've ever been asked in my entire life. Are you having suicidal thoughts? Yes, Ben, I am. I'm sober. Obvi. I'm thinking about dying every day. I don't have my medicine anymore, Ben. What am I going to do? So he suggested that I go back to the real place where the friendly people meet. 12-step recovery, where people in that room never judge me for where I came from. All they wanted me to do was keep coming back. It's what they said every day. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. So work it, you're worth it. And I worked it. And I've been working it now for 28 years. Who knew that people would clap for you for getting sober? But I'll take it. So along with this wonderful newfound freedom and newfound happiness, I started my career in the medical industry. And I was quickly advanced to director of operations for a large medical company in New York. One of the most toxic places I've ever worked in my life. Welcome to toxic workplace number 1, Sharon. But you see, when you have been traumatized, you do real well with the drama. So you put me in control of some serious drama, and I excel. I can manage all of that. So after this company went bankrupt and I found out that my boyfriend had a girlfriend, I decided it was time for me to get out of New York. And I went to the Sunshine State, Florida. And for the first 2 years of living in Florida, I could not understand how a woman who's 10 years sober could still be attracting such unhealthy men in my life. It turns out I was the problem, everybody. I'm the problem. So I spent a lot of time getting to know me. And then I met Mr. Rogers, not his alias, my husband. Fekete. I started my second toxic job managing yet another medical practice. This one was filled with affairs and a pipe bomb. No worries. I had not healed my trauma yet, so I was very good in this drama as well. I'm very good at managing all of this drama. I spent 8 years there, and then I finally decided it was time to go. Time to go out on my own. So I opened my own business 10 years ago, and I consult for doctors from Long Island to Florida to Chicago. And I realized that almost every workplace I went to was toxic. I was restructuring these places. I was asking these employees these questions that were very simple, and I couldn't understand why there was so much turnover. Turns out a lot of people don't know how to communicate in life and in business. So in 2019, I started hearing a little whisper. You should probably tell everybody where you came from. Because now here I was, I'm sober all these years, I'm married, I'm responsible, I haven't blacked out in a long time, and I decided to write a book. I wrote a memoir about my life and how it was in business in 2019. And then this thing called the panorama happened. And I spent those next few years healing that trauma that I had never faced in all those years of being sober. So I started speaking, and I started working at all of these different conferences, and every time I would get off the stage, I would hear the same thing. Where I'm from, nobody talks about mental health. Where I'm from, Sharon, nobody talks about suicide. Nobody talks about alcoholism. Nobody talks about anxiety. Where I'm from and where you're from is uniquely the same. The faster we break the deafening silence, the quicker we will normalize this conversation about mental health. Thank you.